Kenny, the Pirates closed out the first half of the Northwest Conference schedule at home this past weekend against Pacific Lutheran and Puget Sound. Pacific Lutheran earned a second straight conference win for the first time this season, and then Puget Sound had a chance for a third straight conference win. Were in control until that last quarter, and then just couldn't find the basket, falling in overtime. Take us back through the weekend and where this team is at the end of the first half of conference play.
Yeah, so, right now we find ourselves, I believe it's 2 games out of that final fourth spot. Even though the records are kind of splayed throughout the 9 teams, you've seen a lot of teams have close contests. Some teams, have upsets over teams they shouldn't have beat, and that's kind of where we need to find ourselves coming through these last, this 8-game home stretch. So you're going to have to kind of beat a couple teams you shouldn't, but, we have a lot of confidence, especially coming out of Sunday afternoon, where it's like we feel like we had some good performances against teams that are in, that conference tournament standing as of right now. So going back to Saturday, against the Pacific Lutheran team, we had thought we were going to play second, with how things kind of went with the weather this week. I was really proud of the group's resilience and ability to change focus on a short notice going against the team that's going to play very slow in the half-court mix-up between man and zone defensively. So I think that kind of honestly set us up well for Sunday's game, just because we knew they were going to change defenses a little bit. And essentially, I think we kind of just ran out of gas. Our lack of depth, just due to some injuries and some things going on, just kind of hurt us where you're trying to deal with a team that's pressing for, 40, 45 minutes in Sunday's case. So I was really just proud of the performance as far as, it's been a thing where you just have to avoid those little lulls. And I think we've shortened the amount of time that happens. And I think it just came down to, that kind of 2-3 minutes at the start of the fourth, because we played very well to start the first quarter, and then besides the little lull, last 5 minutes of the second, still end the half tied, and then they come out to a lead in the third quarter, which we expected that punch to be thrown, and then really responding with, a 23-point quarter of our own there in the third, taking a double-digit lead, and then like you mentioned, just not being able to, get the ball in the basket, kind of had the turnover bug bite us a little bit. And then once they went back to strictly strictly half-court zone in overtime, it was just something where we've been so used to getting advantages out of the press. I think we weren't used to having to execute, and I think that's kind of what cost us down the stretch.
This team has improved its three-point shooting over the last several games, and is it just a matter of finding better looks, or are we becoming more confident, or a combination of different things?
All of the above. I think it's a thing where just in practice, and not only in practice, just on their own, putting in more time, and just not only just taking those reps more serious, but expecting their own selves to make the shots. I think that's another big key for us, is just not being reluctant or waiting to make the decision once they get the ball, but just thinking, I'm going to shoot, especially when if you're in a corner or in our actions, if you're not one of the main couple of people involved, just be ready. If they're going to help off you, then let's make them pay. So I think it's just something where believing in them, as well as, the people that probably are making more of those shots, have been in a little bit more of a rhythm in the course of games rather than just coming in and being in those positions. So I think it's just the combination, like you mentioned, of a lot of reps in practice and on their own time, being ready, and all those things working kind of in cohesion of just having that confidence when your opportunity comes.
You talked about going to have to beat some teams that we're not expected to beat in order to put ourselves in playoff position. That starts this weekend on the road at Pacific and Willamette, the 2 teams tied for first place. What is it that we have to be prepared for when we play these 2 teams?
Well, Willamette's no surprise. The biggest thing for them from last year is that they didn't really lose anything. They brought back a starting center from 2 years prior who was out all of last year, in Ava Kitchen, and she's a really solid post who gives them another dimension. And then the transfer from Linfield, Elise Waldall, she'll probably be, I'm assuming, a first-team all-conference performer. She's been a great addition to their team. So really just, a lot of their depth. They can play 7 or 8 or 9 players. They're very experienced in the backcourt and all throughout the team. We just know they're kind of going to be similar in some respects to Sunday and UPS as far as their depth goes and their ability to change defenses. And they're just a well-coached team who know what they want to do. And then Pacific, handled us here, just kind of caught us. It was, kind of the perfect storm in both directions. They came off a loss the prior night, playing with a lot of desperation, and then they just kind of threw the first punch in every quarter, and that kind of just got us down, and we weren't able to respond from that. So it's 2 teams that we know want to drive the ball. They have a couple players that want to shoot, but it's just going to be one of those things where doesn't matter how fatigued or tired you are, you're just going to have to play through it and find a way. So I think it's something where in the Willamette game here, we built a little bit of a deficit in that, late second, early third quarter, and then responded back. It just, you can't build a, 12, 14-point hole to try to climb out of. Hopefully we can just be ready to respond and keep seeing our group persevere through on the road.